The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by any species in the known universe. It stretched for 3 kilometers in every direction. With walls made of black stone that had been polished until it shone like dark water, the ceiling was not really a ceiling at all, but a window into space itself, showing the slow dance of distant stars and colorful clouds of gas where new suns were being born. 412 different species had sent their representatives to this place. Some of them looked like nothing humans had ever imagined. There were beings made of crystal that glowed with soft inner light. There were creatures with dozens of tentacles floating in special tanks of liquid. There were things that seemed to be made of smoke and shadow, and others that looked like walking plants with flowers where their eyes should be. Some were giants that towered 10 meters tall, while others were so small they needed special platforms just to be seen. All of them had come to watch the humans. Captain Daniel Hayes stood at the center of the chamber, feeling very small and very alone. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face that had seen many years of hard service. Beside him stood Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos, a younger woman with dark hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Behind them stood the rest of their small delegation, 5 humans in total, presenting a species of 8 billion souls. The silence in the chamber was complete. Every alien eye, sensor, and awareness was focused on the tiny group of humans standing on the speaker's platform. High Arbiter Vextal floated forward. The High Arbiter was not a creature of flesh and blood, but a being of pure energy held together by magnetic fields. It looked like a ball of lightning trapped inside an invisible bottle, constantly shifting and changing colors. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once, translated into every language in the chamber. The assessment of the species known as humanity is now complete, Vexel announced. All members of the council have reviewed the data. All opinions have been heard. The verdict is ready. Daniel felt his heart beating faster, but he kept his face calm. This moment would decide the future of his entire species. Species designation, Human Vexel continued. Planet of origin, Earth, 3rd planet of the Sol system. Time since achieving space travel, 312 standard years. Technological level, primitive. Biological classification, fragile. Psionic potential, none detected. Military capability, insignificant. A sound spread through the chamber. It was laughter, though it came in many different forms. Some aliens clicked their mandibles. Others made wet, gurgling noises. Some simply flashed colors of amusement. But they were all laughing at humanity. Based on these findings, Vextal said, the Galactic Council hereby classifies humanity as a Category 7 civilization. Maria made a small sound beside Daniel. He understood her reaction. Category 7 was the lowest possible rating for any thinking species. It meant humanity was considered barely above animals in the eyes of the galaxy. This classification carries the following restrictions, the High Arbiter continued. Humanity is denied protected status under galactic law. Humanity is restricted from all major trade routes. Humanity is forbidden from establishing colonies beyond their current solar system. Humanity will not be defended against any species that chooses to claim their territory. The laughter grew louder. Daniel could see some of the aliens pointing at the human delegation. Making jokes in languages the translators did not bother to convert. A massive reptilian creature rose from its seat. This was Ambassador Crixtal of the Vorn Dominion, species of warriors who had conquered half a galaxy before the council convinced them to stop. Crixtal stood 3 meters tall and was covered in scales that looked like they could stop bullets. His eyes were yellow with black slits, and when he smiled, he showed rows of teeth like knives. I must thank the council for this entertainment, Crixtal said, his voice like rocks grinding together. It has been many years since I laughed so hard. These soft little creatures thought they could join us as equals. Look at them. They have no claws, no armor, no venom. Their lives are over in less than a century. Their bodies break so easily. They are prey animals who somehow learned to build ships. More laughter filled the chamber. Daniel waited until the noise died down. Then he stepped forward and spoke in a clear, steady voice. With respect, High Arbiter, I have questions about this assessment. The laughter stopped. Some of the aliens seemed surprised that the human could even speak. "You may ask," Vexthel said, sounding almost bored. "You say our technology is primitive, yet we traveled here from Earth, a journey of 12,000 light years, in a ship we built ourselves. You say our bodies are fragile, yet our species has survived ice ages, plagues, and disasters that would have destroyed others. You say we have no military capability, yet we have never lost a war against any species we have encountered." Crixtel made a dismissive gesture. "You have fought only weak species on the edges of known space. You have never faced a true power." "Perhaps not," Daniel agreed. "But that brings me to my request." He turned to face the High Arbiter directly. "Under Article 47 of the Galactic Charter, any species facing classification has the right to challenge that assessment through trials. Humanity formally requests this right." The chamber went absolutely silent. Vextel's energy form flickered in what might have been surprise. Article 47 has not been used in 6,000 years. The last 3 species to invoke it were destroyed. We are aware of the history. You understand that if you fail, humanity loses all sovereignty. Your worlds will be divided among existing council members. Your species will exist only as servants and slaves. We understand. Counselor Alith of the Mindweavers leaned forward. The Mindweavers were telepaths, beings who could read thoughts and see the future. Alith looked like a tall, thin figure wrapped in white robes, with a face that had no features except 2 large black eyes. "I sense no deception in this human," Alith said softly. "He truly believes his species can pass the trials. How fascinating." "Fascinating or foolish," Crixtel growled. "I vote yes. Let the humans try. It will be amusing to watch them fail." The vote spread through the chamber. Species after species agreed. Some wanted to see humans humiliated. Others were simply curious. A few, though they did not show it, felt a strange respect for the small creatures who dared to challenge the verdict of the galaxy. The vote was unanimous. "The challenge is accepted," Vexel announced. "Humanity will face 3 trials: navigation, combat, mental discipline. Failure in any trial means immediate termination of sovereignty." Daniel nodded. "When do we begin?" "The first trial will take place in 7 standard days. Use the time to prepare humans. You will need it." As the delegation left the chamber, Maria walked close to Daniel and spoke quietly. "Do we actually have a plan?" Daniel smiled, though there was no humor in it. "Humanity always has a plan. Sometimes we make it up as we go along." Behind them, the chamber buzzed with excited conversation. Every species in the galaxy was preparing to watch humanity fail. None of them understood what they had just started. None of them knew that the humans had been underestimated before, countless times throughout their history, and every single time, the ones who made that mistake had lived to regret it. If they lived at all, the news spread across 3,000 worlds in less than a day. Every species with access to galactic communications heard the story. The humans, those soft little creatures from an unremarkable planet orbiting an ordinary star, had challenged the verdict of the Galactic Council. They had invoked Article 47, something no species had dared to do in 6,000 years. Gambling houses on 100 different worlds began taking bets. The odds against humanity were 4,000 to 1. Some bookmakers refused to even offer odds, saying it would be like taking money from children to bet on something so certain. The first trial was navigation. The Kethrani maze was one of the most dangerous places in the known universe. It was an asteroid field surrounding twin pulsars, which are the spinning corpses of dead stars that send out beams of deadly radiation like cosmic lighthouses. The asteroids numbered in the billions, ranging in size from tiny pebbles to chunks of rock larger than cities. They tumbled and spun in patterns that changed constantly, pulled by the strange gravity of the 2 pulsars. Ships that entered the Kethrani maze rarely came out again. The rules of the trial were simple. Each species would send 1 ship through the maze. The ship that completed the course in the fastest time would win. Weapons were forbidden. Outside help was forbidden. Only the pilot and the ship, alone against the chaos. The Council selected their best navigators. The Mindweavers sent a pilot who could see 3 seconds into the future, enough time to avoid any obstacle. The Crystalline Collective sent ship controlled by a quantum computer that could calculate millions of possible paths every second. The Vorn sent a heavily armored vessel that could simply smash through smaller asteroids. Humanity sent Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos in a small shuttle called the Sparrow. The observation gallery was filled with representatives from every major species. They watched on massive screens as the competing ships lined up at the entrance to the maze. The human vessel looked tiny and fragile compared to the others, like a sparrow trying to race with eagles. "This will be quick," Ambassador Crystal said, settling his massive body into a specially reinforced chair. "The human ship does not even have proper shields. The radiation alone will cook her within minutes." "Perhaps that is merciful," Counselor Alith replied. "A quick death is better than slow failure." On the screen, the starting signal flashed. The ships launched forward into the maze. The Mindweaver vessel moved with eerie grace, its pilot seeing each obstacle before it appeared and steering around it with perfect timing. The quantum computer ship calculated optimal paths and adjusted course 1,000 times per second. The Vorn vessel simply charged forward, trusting its armor to protect it, and the Sparrow danced. There was no other word for what Maria Santos was doing. She threw her ship into the maze like a leaf caught in a hurricane, but somehow she was always exactly where she needed to be. She did not fly in straight lines or smooth curves. She jinked and rolled and twisted, missing asteroids by distances so small that the watching aliens gasped. "What is she doing?" Crystal demanded. "Her movements make no sense. There is no pattern. She's not following a pattern," one of his aides replied, studying the sensor data. "She is reacting to each obstacle individually, in real time. That is impossible. No biological mind can process information that quickly." But Maria Santos was doing exactly that. Inside the cockpit of the Sparrow, Maria was not thinking in the normal sense. She had entered a state that human pilots called the zone, where conscious thought fell away and pure instinct took over. Her hands moved on the controls without her telling them to. Her eyes saw dangers, and her body responded before her mind could even register what she had seen. She had trained for this her whole life. Every human pilot trained for this. They called it manual flying, and the rest of the galaxy thought it was a joke. Why would anyone fly by hand when computers could do it better? But computers could only respond to what they were programmed to expect. Maria could respond to anything. An asteroid the size of a house tumbled into her path. She was already rolling out of the way before she consciously saw it. A burst of radiation from the pulsar swept across the maze. She dove behind a larger rock, using it as a shield, then shot forward again the moment the beam passed. The Sparrow's hull groaned and creaked as she pushed it beyond its design limits. But she knew exactly how far she could push it. Knew it the same way she knew her own body. "The human is still alive," someone said in the observation gallery. Sounding surprised? "She is more than alive," Alith said softly. "She is winning." It was true. On the tracking display, the Sparrow had pulled ahead of the other ships. The Mindweaver vessel was second, but the gap was growing larger with every passing second. The quantum computer ship had gotten stuck in a dense cluster of asteroids. Its calculations unable to find a path through the chaos. The Vorn vessel had taken too much damage and was limping toward the exit. Maria pushed harder. She could feel the Sparrow around her like an extension of her own body. Every vibration in the hull, every fluctuation in the engines, every tiny change in how the ship responded to her controls told her something. She did not need sensors to know what was happening. She could feel it. The exit appeared ahead, a gap between two massive asteroids that marked the end of the maze. Maria aimed the Sparrow at that gap and gave the engines everything they had. She shot out of the maze like a bullet fired from a gun. "Sparrow to observation gallery," Maria said, her voice steady despite everything she had just done. "Course completed. Time, 14 minutes and 23 seconds. Silence filled the observation gallery. The Mindweaver vessel emerged 2 minutes later. The quantum computer ship limped out 5 minutes after that, its hull scarred and dented. The Vorn vessel barely made it out at all, trailing smoke and debris. Maria Santos, in a ship that should not have survived, had beaten them all. How? Crystal demanded. Her ship had no advanced navigation systems. She had no computer assistance. She could not see the future. How did she do this? Daniel Hayes stepped forward. He had been watching quietly from the back of the gallery, and now he walked to stand before the alien ambassadors. Every human learns to do what Maria just did, he explained. We call it adaptation. Our species evolved on a planet that was constantly trying to kill us. We learned to react quickly or die. We learned to trust our instincts when our minds were too slow. We learned that sometimes the best calculation is no calculation at all, just action. Instinct cannot outperform mathematics, Alith protested. Mathematics can only solve problems it understands, Daniel replied. Maria did not try to solve the maze. She did not calculate paths or predict asteroid movements. She simply flew, moment by moment, reacting to whatever the universe threw at her. And the universe could not throw anything at her faster than she could react. On the screen, Maria brought the Sparrow in for a landing, the little ship battered but unbroken. She climbed out of the cockpit and stretched, looking tired but satisfied. First trial complete, Vextal announced, and even the High Arbiter sounded uncertain now. Humanity is victorious. The second trial will begin in 3 days. As the gallery emptied, Crystal remained in his seat. Staring at the screen where the human pilot was walking away from her ship, for the first time in his long life, the Vorn ambassador felt something cold creeping into his heart. He had seen human weakness and laughed at it. Now he was beginning to see human strength, and he did not find it funny at all. The second trial was combat. After humanity's victory in the navigation trial, the Council had debated long and hard about what the next challenge should be. Many species wanted to choose something that would guarantee human failure. They were embarrassed that such a weak species had beaten their best pilots. And they wanted revenge. Ambassador Crystal proposed the solution. Personal combat, one warrior against another, in an arena where technology mattered less than physical strength. Surely the soft, fragile humans could not win against a true warrior species. The Council agreed. They would pit humanity's champion against the greatest fighter the Vorn Dominion had ever produced. His name was Grathkul. Grathkul stood 3 meters tall. His body was covered in scales that were harder than steel, colored a deep green that shifted to black in certain lights. His arms ended in claws that could cut through ship hulls. His tail was thick with muscle, able to shatter bones with a single swing. He had fought in over 200 sanctioned combat matches and had never lost. His opponents had included warriors from a dozen different species. Each one considered the finest their people could produce. Grathkul had killed them all. The arena was built specifically for this trial. It was a dome 1 kilometer wide, filled with varied terrain. There were rocky hills and shallow streams, dense patches of alien plants, and open clearings of bare ground. The ceiling was transparent, allowing spectators in orbiting ships to watch the battle from above. Billions of beings across the galaxy tuned in to watch. The odds against humanity had improved slightly after the navigation trial, but they were still 2,000 to 1. No one who looked at Grathkul and then at the human champion could believe the human had any chance. Humanity. Sent Sergeant First Class Emma Collins. Emma was a small woman by any standard. She stood 163 centimeters tall and weighed 59 kilograms. Her hair was brown, cut short in a practical military style. Her face was plain and forgettable, the kind of face that disappeared in a crowd. She looked like someone's mother, someone's sister, someone you might pass on the street without a second glance. She carried a rifle, a sidearm, a combat knife, and a small pack of equipment. "This is wrong," Counselor Alith said in the observation gallery. "This is not combat. This is execution." "The humans chose their champion," Crystal replied, unable to hide his satisfaction. "They must live with that choice, or die with it." In the arena, Emma stood at one end, while Grathkul stood at the other. The Vorn warrior looked at her and laughed, a deep rumbling sound like thunder. I have killed many beings, Grathkul called out, but never one so small. I will try to make this quick, little mammal. It is the only mercy I can offer. Emma said nothing. She was studying the terrain, noting the positions of rocks and trees, measuring distances with her eyes. The signal to begin flashed across the arena. Grathkul charged. He moved with terrifying speed for a creature his size, his clawed feet tearing up the ground as he ran. He covered the distance between them in seconds. Claws raised to tear the human apart. Emma ran. She turned and sprinted into the rocky terrain, moving fast despite the weight of her equipment. Grathkul roared in anger and chased her, crashing through obstacles that Emma dodged around. In the observation gallery, the laughter began again. Human flees. Crystal announced happily. As I predicted, they are cowards at heart. She is not fleeing, Daniel Hayes said quietly. No one heard him. Emma led Grathkul through the arena in what seemed like a desperate attempt to stay alive. She ducked behind rocks that he smashed apart. She splashed through streams that barely slowed him down. She dove through patches of dense plants that his massive body simply trampled. But she was doing something else as well, something the observers did not notice. She was leaving things behind. A small device pressed into the mud beside a stream. A thin wire stretched across a narrow passage between two rocks. A tiny package wedged into a crack in a boulder. Emma moved through the arena like she was decorating it, and Grathkul was so focused on catching her that he did not notice what she was doing. 20 minutes into the match, Grathkul finally cornered her. Emma had her back against a cliff face with nowhere left to run. The Vorn warrior approached slowly now, savoring the moment. His yellow eyes gleamed with cruel pleasure. No more running, little mammal, he growled. Now you die. He lunged forward. Claws extended to tear her apart. The explosion threw him sideways. Emma had led him into the center of a kill zone. Every device she had planted, every wire she had stretched, every package she had hidden, all of them had been placed to funnel Grathkul to this exact spot. When she pressed the detonator hidden in her palm, a dozen small explosives went off at once. Grathkul crashed to the ground, his scales cracked and smoking. But he was not dead. The Vorn were incredibly tough, and even that much explosive force had only wounded him. He pushed himself up, roaring in pain and rage, and turned to face Emma. She shot him in the eye. The bullet punched through the one part of his body that his scales did not protect. Grathkul screamed and clutched at his face, blinded on one side. Emma walked toward him calmly, rifle steady, and shot him in the other eye. The Vorn warrior fell. Emma stood over him, watching him thrash and scream on the ground. Then she drew her sidearm, placed it against the base of his skull where the scales were thinnest, and fired. The arena fell silent. Match concluded. The automated announcement system declared. Victor, human designation Collins, Emma. The observation gallery, no one moved. No one spoke. They had just watched a creature that weighed less than a tenth of her opponent kill one of the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. Emma looked up at the gallery. Her face was spattered with alien blood, but her expression was calm. She raised one hand and gave a sharp salute. How? Crystal whispered. His scales had gone pale, a sign of deep shock in his species. How did she do this? Daniel Hayes walked to stand beside the alien ambassador. She used her mind instead of her body, he explained. Humans learned long ago that strength is not the only way to win a fight. We are not the fastest or the strongest creatures on our own planet, let alone in the galaxy. But we learn to think. We learn to plan. We learn to use tools and traps and strategy. But she ran from him. She showed fear, showed intelligence. Every step she took, every direction she ran, every moment she spent avoiding him was part of her plan. She was never fleeing. She was preparing the battlefield. Oh. Daniel paused. Grathkul thought he was hunting her. He was wrong. She was hunting him from the very first moment. On the arena floor, medical teams were rushing to collect what remained of the Vorn champion. Emma Collins walked away, pausing only to collect the equipment she had not needed to use. Second trial complete, Vexthal announced. The High Arbiter's energy form flickered rapidly, a sign of uncertainty. Humanity is victorious. The final trial will begin in 7 days. As the gallery emptied, the alien representatives moved in silence. None of them looked at the human delegation. None of them made jokes, or laughed, or offered predictions about the final trial. Something had changed. In the way the galaxy saw humanity, they had looked at humans and seen prey. Now they were beginning to understand that they had been looking at predators all along, the most dangerous kind of predators, the kind that did not look dangerous until it was far too late. The final trial was designed to be impossible. After 2 unexpected victories, the Galactic Council was no longer treating humanity as a joke. They were treating humanity as a threat. The alien representatives met in private sessions, arguing about what the final challenge should be. Some wanted to cancel the trials entirely and admit the humans had proved themselves. Others wanted to choose something so difficult that no species could possibly succeed. The second group, I think, chose the resonance chamber, deep in the heart of the Council's space station. There was a room that few beings had ever seen. It was a perfect sphere, 100 meters across, made of a material that had no name in any human language. The walls were covered in patterns that seemed to move when you looked at them. The air itself hummed with power. The resonance chamber was one of the greatest achievements in galactic history. It could focus mental energy to levels that defied imagination. A trained user could move objects with their thoughts, communicate across vast distances, even alter the fabric of reality itself. The Mind Weavers had built it 12,000 years ago, and only they knew how to operate it. The trial was simple. The humans had to use the chamber to move a small moon from one orbit to another. This is the end of their challenge, Counselor Lith declared. The chamber responds only to psionic energy. Humans have no psionic ability whatsoever. They cannot interface with the device. They cannot even begin the trial. Then why allow them to try at all? Ambassador Crixtal asked. He had been quiet since watching Grathkul die, and his voice held none of its previous confidence. Because they must be seen to fail, Alith replied. The galaxy is watching. Billions of beings have seen humans win 2 trials that should have destroyed them. We must show everyone that there are limits to what these creatures can do. We must show them that humans can be stopped. Captain Daniel Hayes heard about the trial and said nothing. He simply asked for permission to bring a team of human scientists to examine the chamber. And the council, curious to see what the humans would do, AGREED, Dr. Patricia Coleman led the team. Patricia was a physicist, a woman who had spent her entire career studying energy and how it moved through the universe. She was not a soldier or a pilot. She had never fired a weapon in her life. But she understood things that soldiers and pilots did not understand. Things about the basic nature of reality. She spent 3 days studying the resonance chamber. On the 4th day, she asked to address the council. The chamber is an amplifier, she explained. Standing before the alien representatives, it takes mental energy and makes it stronger, the same way a speaker takes sound and makes it louder. But the underlying principle is not unique to psionic ability. Any coherent energy pattern should work. Should work. Elith repeated. This device was built by the greatest minds of my species. We understand it better than anyone. It requires psionic input. It requires coherent input, Patricia corrected. Psionic energy is coherent because trained minds can focus it precisely. But there are other forms of coherent energy. Human brains produce electrical patterns that, under the right conditions, can achieve similar coherence. You are suggesting that humans can operate the chamber without psionic ability? I am suggesting we can try. The council debated for hours, but eventually they agreed to let the humans make their attempt. The rules of the trial did not specify how the chamber had to be operated, only that it had to be operated successfully. Patricia gathered her team. They worked through the night, building something the galaxy had never seen. Before, they called it the Neural Bridge. It was a network of cables and sensors that could read human brainwaves and translate them into a format the chamber could understand. But one human brain, even amplified, would not be enough. The chamber required the combined focus of 12 mind-weavers to operate. So Patricia connected 12 humans together. They were volunteers. 12 men and women who had agreed to risk their lives for this trial. They included scientists and soldiers, pilots and engineers, people from every walk of human life. They sat in a circle around the chamber's core, connected by the neural bridge, their minds linked in a way that no human minds had ever been linked before. Initiating synchronization, Patricia announced. Everyone, focus on the target. Picture the moon in its new orbit. Hold that image in your mind. Nothing else matters. Just the moon moving to where it needs to be. The chamber began to hum. In the observation gallery, Aleth leaned forward, black eyes wide with disbelief. This is impossible, the Mindweaver said. They have no training. They have no natural ability. Their minds are not designed for this. Yet something is happening, Vexel observed. Inside the chamber, the 12 humans struggled. The neural bridge was working, translating their thoughts into patterns the chamber could use. But their minds kept drifting apart. Each person saw the moon differently. Each person imagined the orbit differently. They could not find a common focus. Then Christopher Davis, an engineer from Seattle, began to hum. It was an old song, a melody his grandmother used to sing when he was a child. He did not mean to do it. The sound just came out of him, comfort against the strange sensation of having his mind connected to others. The woman beside him picked up the tune. Then the man beside her. One by one, all 12 humans began humming the same melody, a song none of them knew the words to. A song that had been passed down through generations of human families. Their minds began to align. Coherence rising, Patricia reported, her voice tight with excitement. 30%. 50%. 70%. The chamber blazed with light. The patterns on the walls began to move faster, spinning and shifting in response to the focused human thoughts. Power levels climbed higher than they had ever climbed under Mindweaver control. Coherence at 100%, the monitoring system announced. Initiation successful. On screens throughout the observation gallery, a moon began to move. It was a small moon, barely 100 kilometers across, orbiting a gas giant in a nearby system. Under the focused will of 12 connected human minds, it shifted from its ancient path into a new orbit, exactly where the trial required it to be. The chamber powered down. The 12 humans sagged in their chairs, exhausted but alive. Patricia checked her readings 3 times before she believed what she was seeing. Trial complete, she announced. The moon has been moved. Silence filled the observation gallery. Then Aleth spoke, and the Mindweaver's voice was soft with wonder. How did they do that? They have no psionic ability. Their minds should not be able to connect like that. They should not be able to achieve coherence without training. Daniel Hayes answered, Humans have been connecting our minds for our entire existence. We do it through stories and songs and shared experiences. We do it through love and friendship and common purpose. We call it empathy, the ability to feel what others feel, to think what others think, to work together as if we were one being. He paused. Looking at the exhausted volunteers being helped out of the chamber, those 12 people do not share the same beliefs or backgrounds or experiences. They come from different countries, different cultures, different lives. But when they needed to work together, they found something that connected them. A song. A simple melody that meant something to all of them. A song moved a moon, Crystal said slowly. A song. Not just a song, Daniel replied. Everything the song represented. Every memory it carried. Every emotion it held. 12 separate minds, joined by something deeper than technology, stronger than psionic power. He smiled. We call it humanity. The Vexel floated forward, energy form pulsing with colors that had no names. The trial is complete, the High Arbiter announced. Humanity has passed all 3 challenges. The classification will be reviewed. This council has made a serious error in judgment, and we must correct it. The observation gallery erupted in noise. Aliens of every species talking and arguing and trying to understand what they had just witnessed. But Patricia Coleman did not hear any of it. She was helping Christopher Davis to his feet, the man who had started humming that old song. "Where did you learn that melody?" she asked him. Christopher smiled tiredly. "My grandmother used to sing it. She said her grandmother taught it to her, and her grandmother before that. I do not even know how old it is. It just felt right, you know? Like it was always supposed to be sung in that moment." Patricia nodded. She did not understand what had happened in the chamber, not really. But she understood one thing. Clearly, humanity had just shown the galaxy something new, something the aliens had never imagined was possible, something that changed everything. The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so crowded. Every species that could send representatives had sent them. Ships filled the space around the station, packed with beings who wanted to witness what happened next. Trillions of viewers watched through broadcasts that reached every corner of known space. The whole galaxy was holding its breath. At the center of the chamber stood the human delegation. Captain Daniel Hayes looked tired but calm. Beside him stood Maria Santos, Emma Collins, Patricia Coleman, and the 12 Vulu. Neetiers, who had moved a moon with the power of their connected minds. They were a small group, barely 20 people, standing before an assembly of 412 species. High Arbiter Vextel rose to speak. "The trials are complete," the being of energy announced. "Humanity has passed all 3 challenges. By the laws of this council, their classification must be reconsidered." A murmur swept through the chamber, but no one interrupted. "We assessed humanity using metrics that have served this council for 12,000 years, Vexel continued. "We measured strength and speed. We measured lifespan and physical capability. We measured psionic potential and technological advancement. By all these measures, humanity appeared weak, inferior, barely worthy of notice." The High Arbiter paused, energy form flickering through shades of color that suggested deep thought. "We were wrong." Chamber fell absolutely silent. We looked at humanity and saw fragile bodies that could barely survive the conditions we consider comfortable. We did not see creatures who had survived ice ages and plagues and disasters that would have destroyed most species. We saw short lifespans and assumed this made humans less capable. We did not consider that short lives might drive them to accomplish more in less time, to value every moment, to never give up, no matter how hopeless the situation appeared. Vexel turned to face the human delegation directly. "We saw no psionic ability and assumed this was a weakness. We did not imagine that humans might find other ways to connect their minds, other ways to work together as one being. We saw primitive technology and assumed humans were stupid. We did not realize they had simply taken a different path, one that valued adaptability over raw power, creativity over established methods, teamwork over individual strength." "What classification do you propose?" Ambassador Crixtel asked. The Vorn had been quiet throughout the session, his scales still pale from the shock of watching Grathkul fall. "Propose a new classification," Vextel replied. "Category 1. Designation, Essential." Another murmur swept through the chamber, louder this time. "Essential." Counselor Aleth repeated, "That classification does not exist in our system." "It does now." Vexel's energy form blazed brighter. "Humanity is not our equal. They are not stronger or faster or more advanced. But they are something else, something we did not have before. They are adaptable in ways we cannot match. They are creative in ways we cannot predict. They are persistent beyond anything we have ever encountered." The High Arbiter turned to address the full assembly. "For 12,000 years, the species of this council have lived in relative peace. We have established systems and rules and ways of doing things. We have grown comfortable, perhaps too comfortable. When challenges arise, we respond with the same methods we have always used. When problems appear, we solve them the same ways we have always solved them. Humanity does not think like that. They approach every challenge as if seeing it for the first time. They find solutions we never imagined because they do not know those solutions are supposed to be impossible. They succeed against overwhelming odds because they do not accept that failure is the only option." "What are you suggesting?" Crixtel demanded. "That we need humans?" I am suggesting exactly that. Vextel faced the Vorn ambassador without flinching. The galaxy is vast. There are threats we have not yet faced, problems we have not yet solved, challenges we cannot yet imagine. When those moments come, we will need species who can think differently. Species who can adapt. Species who can find ways to win when winning should be impossible. You are describing an alliance, Alith said quietly. I am describing a partnership. Not the limited relationship we offer to lesser species, but a true joining of civilizations. Human creativity combined with our knowledge, human adaptability combined with our resources, human persistence combined with our stability. Daniel Hayes stepped forward, and if we refuse, the chamber went quiet again. Every eye, sensor, and awareness focused on the human captain. Then you will have made an enemy of the most unpredictable species we have ever encountered, Vexel replied honestly. We would prefer to avoid that outcome. Daniel looked at his people. Maria Santos, the pilot who had outflown the best navigators in the galaxy. Emma Collins, the soldier who had killed an unbeatable warrior through nothing but planning and determination. Patricia Coleman and her team, who had moved a moon by singing a song. They were all tired. They had been pushed to their limits and beyond. They had faced challenges designed to destroy them and had emerged victorious. And every single one of them nodded. Daniel turned back to the council. Humanity accepts your offer of partnership. We will share our adaptability, our creativity, our persistence. We will help you face whatever challenges the future brings. But we have conditions. Name them, Vextel said. First, we want equal representation in this council. Not a voice that can be ignored, but a vote that counts. Agreed. Second, we want access to all trade routes and colonization rights. Our people deserve the chance to spread across the stars like every other species here. Agreed. Third, we want a formal apology. Not just to our delegation, but broadcast to every world in the galaxy. We want everyone to know that the Council was wrong about humanity. This time, Vextel hesitated. A formal apology from the Galactic Council had never been issued in 12,000 years. It would be an admission of failure that would echo across history. Agreed, the High Arbiter said finally. The Council was wrong. We judged humanity by standards that did not apply to them, and we failed to see their true value. This error will be acknowledged publicly. Daniel smiled. It was a genuine smile, warm and satisfied. Then humanity is honored to join this council. We look forward to proving that your trust is not misplaced. The vote was called. 412 species weighed in on whether to accept humanity as full partners in the UHL Galactic Council. The vote was unanimous, as the chamber erupted in noise. Species congratulating each other and discussing what this new partnership might mean. Ambassador Crixtel made his way through the crowd to stand before Daniel Hayes. I underestimated your species, the Vorn said. I mocked you. I laughed at your weakness. I was a fool, as Daniel agreed. You were. Crixtel bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. I think I will enjoy working with your people, human. You are not afraid to speak truth to those stronger than you. We are not afraid of much, Daniel replied. We have survived too many impossible situations to believe anything is truly hopeless. The Vorn nodded slowly. I begin to see why your species has come so far. You do not know how to give up. We know how, Daniel said. We simply choose not to. 300 years later, humanity spread across 100 star systems. Human diplomats resolved wars that had raged for centuries. Human engineers designed technologies that transformed civilizations. Human soldiers fought beside allies who had once dismissed them as inferior. The Galactic Council still met in its great chamber, but the assembly had changed. Human representatives sat among the 412 other species, their voices heard, their votes counted. The partnership Vextful, proposed, had grown into something stronger than anyone had imagined. And on the wall of the chamber, beside the symbols of every spacefaring species in the galaxy, hung a simple image, a blue and green planet circling an ordinary yellow star, Earth, the homeworld of a species that had been declared Inferior, a species that had proved the galaxy Wrong. A species that would never stop surprising the universe with what they could accomplish. The Council had called humanity weak, fragile, and insignificant. They had regretted it immediately, and they would never make that mistake again.